An article came out today that links the Montreal Canadiens and Sean Monahan to the Colorado Avalanche. I'll be discussing those trade possibilities, plus we have a massive Cole Caufield contract extension update, and finally, Alex Nedeljkovic was put on waivers by the Red Wings, and I'm going to be talking about whether or not Montreal should make a run at him, so you won't want to miss anything I have to say on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and really quick before we get into the video, guys, click subscribe if you haven't already. A lot of you guys, about 70% of you, haven't hit that, but you're here every day. You might as well hit it and like the video while you're at it. Alright, so, first thing today, Sean Monahan to the Colorado Avalanche. It's an interesting trade perspective. I mean, a prospective trade for Sean Monahan is something that's happened a lot this season. We released a video not that long ago, a month ago maybe, linking Sean Monahan to the Edmonton Oilers, but an article from Montreal Hockey Now came out today that now links Monahan to the Avalanche. Let's have a look. Montreal Hockey Now has learned that Monahan is indeed part of the list of targets for the Avalanche, who are actively looking into getting themselves a center to help balance their lineup as they start to get healthy again. NHL insider Pierre Lebrun has also linked Monahan to the Avalanche on a multitude of occasions. Given the uncertainty with Ryan O'Reilly and Jonathan Toews, Sean Monahan represents the surest bet to fill in their lineup and play some meaningful minutes. But that's not it. They go on to explain why Monahan might be a good fit for Colorado. In fact, none of the Avalanche's regular centers have a face-off percentage higher than 49% at this time. That's a major point of worry going into the second half of the season, fighting for a wildcard spot, because Monahan, I believe, is 55% on the draw for Montreal in the games he's played. Further to that, Monahan could play some sound, even-strength hockey for the Avs, who used to thrive at 5-on-5 last year, as the Canadian center sports some of the best underlying numbers on the team while being able to play in all other situations in a pinch. And we've seen that a ton in Montreal. Some power play, some great 5-on-5 lines. He's been able to mix around lines no matter what, and he always has seemed like a good fit. He's a player we've loved so far this year. I believe he has 17 points in 25 games. He's looked like one of the better Habs when he's been on the ice. The only problem is, don't forget, Sean Monahan has had a lot of hip issues in the past, and again, he is injured this season, something that has really plagued him over the last 2 or 3 years. So why would Colorado go for him? Well, again, they need a bona fide guy down the middle who can win you some draws and play on some special teams and just be that extra player that is always going to bring his all and give a nice little scoring touch to boot. Especially with the loss of Nazem Kadri after last year, he'd be a nice little fit. And they mentioned that other targets like Ryan O'Reilly and Jonathan Toews that the Avalanche might be looking at, they're not so sure things either. I mean, they have some injury troubles. They've decreased in production, but Monahan looks like, when healthy, he's been bouncing back. So what would Montreal want to get for Monahan? That's where I think this deal will probably hit a snag. The problem is, I don't see Kent Hughes asking for anything less than a first-round pick for Sean Monahan. 17 points in 25 games on a team that's really not that good. Yeah, I know he has some injury troubles, but his contract, there's almost nothing left on it. And if Montreal retains half the salary, why not ship him to Colorado? A team that just won the Cup, a team that's looking to fight back for a better playoff spot, a team that's had a lot of injuries this year, but they know they are true Cup contenders when healthy. A guy like Monahan can really bolster their lineup, a veteran presence who can score, who can play the power play, who can play in any line you want him to, is very valuable. So I'm hoping that Hughes, whenever he does decide to sell on Monahan, if he doesn't decide to keep him around, I think that getting at least a first-round pick is what we'd want to get back, and I think Monahan could be worth it to the right suitor, just like Colorado. Topic number 2 today. Massive Cole Caufield contract update. I'm just going to come right out and say it. There's no actual news on how much Montreal wants to sign him for, but there's a player that's kind of similar to Caufield, at least in a similar situation, that just got signed to an extension, so we can use that as sort of a baseline. The Minnesota Wild signed Matt Boldy today to a 7-year, $49 million extension. $7 million average annual value. Matt Boldy, if you didn't know this season, so far, he has 29 points in, I believe, 41 games. Oh, look, they green screened out his jersey. You can see me in here. That's kind of cool. Anyway, 12 goals, 17 assists, 125 shots, 36 hits, averaging about 18 minutes a game. He's a solid point getter. Last year, he was about a point per game in the games he played. He only started with the Minnesota Wild last January after coming up from the NCAA directly to the team, and he stayed on the team basically for the rest of the year, and guess what? He was phenomenal, almost a point per game for them. This season, his point production has slightly dropped, which makes a little bit of sense. The Wild lost a scorer that played with him a good bit in Kevin Fiala to Los Angeles just this offseason in a trade that they needed to do for salary reasons. But they inked Boldy to a long-term extension. Now, Some people are saying, oh, Boldy's never going to be a 40-goal scorer, 90-point player. Why would you pay him $7 million a year? Well, look at some other guys in the NHL who are getting $7 million a year. Like, some top guys who are getting 70, 80 points, that seems like a reasonable salary point for them, especially with the cap probably going to go up in the next few years. Not to mention, Boldy is a big body, physical player who can play a full 200-foot game, quite good defensively and very good offensively. So let's get into it. What does this mean for Cole Caufield? Well, Cole Caufield, our boy this season, doing much better in the scoring column with a worse team. 26 goals, 10 assists, 36 points, and I believe, 44 games this year? 43 games, 152 shots. Now, very few hits, very few block shots, is a -10, and is playing, again, also about 18 minutes per game, similar to Boldy. So some people are saying, oh, well, they're both young wingers, so they should both get about the same value, right? Boldy's a little better defensively, but Caufield's a better goal scorer. No, I don't think Caufield's going to accept $7 million a year, and here's why. Cole Caufield has all the leverage here. This guy is basically on pace to score 50 goals for the Montreal Canadiens, a thing that has not happened pretty much at all in Montreal Canadiens history. Only 6 different players have done it. In the entire history of the Montreal Canadiens, 6 different players have tallied 50 goals in the season. Caufield's looking to be the 7th at the age of, 22 is he now? 21, 22? This kid is phenomenal, and he has all the tools to be a perennial 40-50 goal scorer. And that is very valuable to a team. I think Boldy will live up to his contract, but I think Montreal is going to have to give Caufield more. Here's another thing. Nick Suzuki just signed that contract that's worth a bit over $8 million per season. So I think that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton might do the thing that Boston kind of did with Patrice Bergeron, where they give some stars around him similar amounts of money. Hey, we gave Suzuki this, we're going to give Caufield basically the same thing. We're treating you guys as the cornerstones, the franchise players. You two are going to lead this team, and no one is worth more than one another. We're going to give you both the money and see where we go from there. And I think this Boldy contract actually sets a pretty good precedent for that. I can see Caufield inking an $8 million per year extension at this point. And I think you guys might too. Let me know in the comments if you think $8 million per year is too much for him. One thing I have seen, though, I think $8 million per year over a long-term extension is very, very possible. But what if Cole Caufield decides to not do what Boldy did, not do what Suzuki did, kind of go for a bridge deal? Maybe a 3-year deal, especially if he ends up with 40-plus goals this season. He may be incentivized to say, hey, Montreal, listen, I want to prove myself over the next few years. I want to eventually make $10 million a year over 7-8 years long contract. Because if he signs, say, a 3-year bridge deal at maybe, $6 million per year, we'd be happy with that. And then he does amazing in those 3 seasons, scoring 40 goals in each of them. Montreal would be happy to pay him $10+ million, and by then, who knows how high contracts are going to get. So I think this Boldy contract sets a good precedent for Cole Caufield getting about $8 million over a long-term 7-year contract extension. But I also think, since Boldy only got that $7 million, it might also incentivize Caufield to take that extra couple seasons to prove his worth, gamble on himself, and see if he can make more in the long term. Let me know what you guys think down below. Final quick topic today. Could Montreal go after Nedeljkovic? If you guys missed it, the Detroit Red Wings put Alex Nedeljkovic on waivers, which was a bit surprising until I looked at his stats. Now, Alex Nedeljkovic, if you remember, a couple of years ago for the Carolina Hurricanes, Rookie of the Year nominee. I don't believe, did he win it? I don't believe so. But either way, he was one of the best goalies in the NHL a couple of years, let alone rookie goalies for Carolina. And then he got traded to Detroit in what people thought was a steal for the Red Wings. But since then, well, no, not that. Since then, he hasn't been rolling very well. Let's take a look. Since he went to Detroit, 59 games last season with a .901 save percentage, .331 GAA. This season, in only 9 games with the Wings, he's played almost as much in the AHL with Grand Rapids as he has with Detroit. Now, he's been great in Grand Rapids. Of course, he's an NHL caliber goalie. But with the Red Wings this year, .880 save percentage with a .409 GAA. And look at that Carolina season. 23 games played, 1.9 GAA with a .932 save percentage. So Nedeljkovic has shown he's a very good goalie. With Detroit, not so much. It seemed like he just fell off a cliff. And why is that? And should Montreal go after this guy who just a couple of years ago was elite? No. Here is why. Carolina's defense now and then was very, very good. They're a physical team who really likes to grind your games down, really likes to force you to the outside and protect their goalies as much as they can. And I'm not saying that's the only reason Nedeljkovic was good. You don't put up those stats if you're an average goalie behind a very good defense. But not usually. I mean, you don't put up those stats if you're a bad goalie behind a very good defense. But if you're an average to above average goalie behind an incredible defense with only a 23-game sample size like that, maybe it can happen. Because look at Detroit. While they have some great defensive talent, the overall defensive ability is a vast decrease from what Nedeljkovic had in front of him in Carolina. So with a poor defense in front of him, he has really shown he's like borderline NHL caliber. And he's on waivers. And some Habs fans, I've seen some Habs fans saying, oh, we should just go after him. He was so good in Carolina. Do you really think he'd do that much better behind Montreal's current defense? I'm not saying our defense isn't talented, but look how many shots we're giving up per game. Look how many scoring chances we're giving up. We've been getting bailed out by Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault, and I do not think Nedeljkovic would be better than either of them if they went out and got him. So if any of you saw this news, saw him on waivers, thought maybe he can come to Montreal, I'm here to say it's a bad idea. But again, let me know down below if you agree with me or disagree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, do whatever you want. The support's been amazing and we really hope it continues. I'm Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next video.